Hello my people and welcome to another Patreon mixing tutorial. Let's take a fast look at my cover of Masochist, the new Polaris song. Man, I love this song, especially this bridge feels part. I was planning on covering a Polaris song at some point in the future, probably Lucid, and I still will, but I'm glad they released this to give me a chance to really dig into one of their songs. And it's been a crazy experience. I love this song. So let's start by talking about my Master Bus plugins. So here is Golfos. As by now you might have understood, Golfos is a program that has a human hearing algorithm that tries to bring out the pleasant sounding frequencies in your mix and tame the harsh sounding ones. So you can see it trying to do it on my noise floor right here. It thinks, and correctly, that my noise is pretty harsh and that it's lacking bass. Let's see what it thinks of my mix. This guy is just a sound better button. It has that really nice shine at about 15K. That's really hard to get with, well, it's not hard to get with other plugins, but it's only gonna boost it when it thinks your mix needs it. So it's making my mix a bit brighter, and it's also doing some good stuff in the mid-range and on the bass. So instead of always boosting the bass and making my kick blow up everything, it only boosts the bass when there's no kick in the mix. So it's like an auto EQ for your master bus. Golfos is a yes on this mix so far. I still haven't found a mix that makes sound worse. So that's where we're at with Golfos. How much are we compressing the mix bus today? Energetic rock song. We're going for about 3 decibels of gain reduction to 2 at all times, giving us a nice squeeze on the kick and snare, and also making the guitars match the rest of the energy of the bass and drums. Linear multiband compressor. What I'm looking for here is, just like Golfos, an extra level of frequency balance. So if anything is too loud in a certain frequency range, this plugin is going to duck it for me. And it's usually the guitars here in the mid-range. It dynamically cuts down on my kick, snare, and guitars whenever they're playing. So it's just another level of frequency balance. A multiband compressor on your master bus can go a long way. Our master limiter is Ozone. We're on a fast release character all the time. And this is the Intelligent Release Control 1, because 2 was sounding a bit too attacky on the transients. The bad thing about limiting is that you lose your drum transient information, but sometimes it's desirable. And here, without the limiter, the drums were very pokey, and I was looking to cut them off here. You can see my mindset is that it should always be limiting the tiniest little bit, but only the kick and snare should really be hit by the limiter. It gets enough loudness the way I've mixed stuff with pretty loud guitars. So that's what Ozone is doing. That is my master bus. The drum sound, you'll be happy to hear, this is the same drum sound as the Periphery 4 video I did. So go check that video out for a full rundown of every single plugin on this tone. There's just a little difference that I've explained in past mixing tutorials. Kick, snare, and toms are also being ran through limiters now. Because of that same reason, I thought the drums were way too pokey, and running kick, snare, and toms through the limiters helps get rid of pokiness. Because whenever it's too pokey, the limiter will flatten that peak and make it a little bit softer on the ear, which also lets you boost the decay. You can see it's a little bit more on the snare than on the kick, and this is going to help tame the peak and fatten the drum. But use limiters on your direct mics very sparingly. You just want this tiniest little bit of gain reduction, really. Other than that, you can watch the P4 demo review video for the full drum sound. Let's check out this bass tone. My bass has such dead strings. That's an almost embarrassing DI sound. Let's see what I do about it. I first run the DI through a pretty extreme EQ. I get rid of a lot of mid-range at 300, 1000, and 500 to make it sound a little bit more scooped. And I boost 6 decibels on a high shelf at 4K to give it pick attack. Check a before and after on this. This is me trying to save the DI a little bit before I hit the distortion, which is Joel Wanasek bus glue bass. We're limiting the low end and we're limiting the top end too. So this is a plugin that combines 2 limiters with different frequencies. And then you can add distortion to the top one. Distortion A was my favorite for this effect. Then we're going into an EQ. Just trying to get rid of some honkiness at 500. Actually, it's so wide that it's trying to give us a way bigger scoop on the bass tone. Also cutting low end beneath 60 Hz and any fizzy high end above 5K. It's also unnecessary. Then we're boosting the bass with a crazy tool. You've seen this. This is the R-Bass harmonic generator by Waves. And what it does is you tell them, I want extra 80 Hz on my bass, but I don't want a static boost on it. I want every harmonic of 80 Hz boosted as well. And that gives you lots of perceived volume increase more than anything. It's almost psychoacoustic. So check it out. It works wonders, way better than just boosting 80. And you gotta use it sparingly or else you're gonna blow up someone's speakers and swallow the entire mix on the mix bus compressor. Not good. Then in the same vein, a limiter. There's a bunch of pick attack on this bass that needs to be cut off, and the limiter is gonna do just that. It's just a subtle treatment to not let the bass poke through at any time. I want the bass to be right there, pinned, not really moving, not even a little pick attack poking out in the front. Let's check out the guitar tone. Much better DI sound with much fresher strings, going straight into the Will Putney. So this is Amplifier 2, the Bogner emulation, into Cabinet 4. Cabinet 4 had the closest mids to the original tone. I maybe dialed back the gain a little bit and increased the treble because the cabinet was very rich on mids only and I needed a little bit of fizz. Into an EQ, immediately we need to salvage some of that fizziness that it has, a lot of it, and then boost the good high end at about 8K. That's way more pleasant instead of that fizziness at 13K that's really useless. There's also a high pass. Anything beneath 80 Hz is just subs that we don't want on the sides of the mix. And a few harshness reducing notches. one at 3.2 and one at 2.2. Just shaping our guitar tone a little bit. This is a dynamic version of these notches. So if you could imagine these notches acting somewhat like golfos and moving all the time as they're necessary, like this, that is what this plugin does. BX Refinement by Brainworks grabs these frequencies that I'm going to solo. If I can put this on. So you can hear it's the very fizzy high end. Not really the fizzy high end, but the scratchy high end at about 3.3K or 4K. It's going to reduce them in a non-static way, but a dynamic way that really responds to the playing. After that softening, we're going to go into a compressor to make sure of two things. One is that the palm mutes don't poke any louder than the main guitar parts, and the other is that everything is really nice and static so that there's a constant stream of high-end information on the sides of the mix. So it's about -2, -3 decibels all the time, and when there's a palm mute, you'll see it go almost to -6. Did you see that one? This is very important. I want some dynamics in the guitars, but not in the form of boomy palm mutes. Definitely not. Let's go over to the chorus lead sounds. I'll just turn on that light. Oh. What do we have going on here? So every one of these lead sounds will be going through two plugins. That is going to be the refinement tool to get rid of these harsh frequencies. And it's going to be an EQ to get rid of a lot of low end. So anything beneath 200 Hertz and a lot of 400 Hertz, that just sounds boomy and it doesn't let the leads cut through. And then we're going to remove harshness at 2.3. And at 4.8, this is an offensive one. On your leads, really be careful about what frequencies are poking through and what frequencies really need to shine through. It's mostly your mid-range, so be sure to take care of the high mid-range and the low end. With these on the bus, I basically just need to get the amp settings right. So these ones are the same amplifier as the rhythm tone, but it's a different cabinet. So by switching cabinets, you get them to poke through immediately because it's a different EQ curve. We're going from a cabinet 4 to 3. Cabinet 4 sounds louder and more mid-rangey, but it's the same EQ profile as the rhythm guitars, so it's just gonna blend in. And if you switch to any of these others, you get a different curve EQ, just different enough to make it cut through. And then on the EQ, I'm taking advantage of the filters to remove high fizz above. That's 5K. Fizz above 5.6K and low end beneath 180. So this already helps them get out of the amplifier the way they need. And then all they do is hit the bus EQs and they sound good. So it's literally it. Then there's a more lo-fi one here. Which is the same exact amp, but then it goes into this EQ, which is going to get rid of more low end behind, nice English, more low end below 100, and any high end above 7K also goes away. There's also this little notch that helps it not be annoying at the ears. So that's 2.3. Just by adding an EQ like this, you can create a very, very lo-fi sound out of the same amplifier as the other leads. Then we hit our wet lead. That sounds a bit like this. So this isn't hard to get. It's just the exact same amplifier with cabinet 3, but into a plate reverb. So what I'm looking for to do these wet leads is about 80% mix, so that some of the pick attack still shines through the reverb. About 8 seconds, anywhere 8 to 16, depending on how epic the lead needs to be. I like this little modulation switch. If you don't have it on your reverb, try a chorus after the reverb. It helps it be nice and dreamy. And I'm taking advantage of the EQ here in the plugin to remove all the low end beneath 320 Hertz so that it's not boomy. And I'm probably still doing it again in an EQ after. Check out what this does. If you're paying close attention, you can hear it gets rid of a that's always there. That could go unnoticed if you didn't even try to EQ it out. So this is just making it as clear as it can be to cut through everything. Nothing has more low end than necessary, and that's why everything is heard correctly. Awesome. Let's go to the more important lead. So this one is a different sound. I chose the SS11 pedal by Mercurial Audio into a very bright impulse response of a greenback cabinet. And immediately, just by doing that and putting it on the crunch mode instead of the lead mode, I get something that focuses a lot more on my dynamics and pick attack instead of a flat lead like I want the others to be. So from this sound, this little ambience is here to help. So about 3 seconds, nothing crazy like the other wet leads. 25% mix just to help it stay in the stereo field. And again, EQing low end out. 300 Hertz and below, be gone. Delay, like you just heard, is here just to help it bounce in the stereo field again, not to add a rhythmic effect of delay. So let's listen for it. So you can tell it's not really about the repeats, it's just about getting it to spread around in the stereo field instead of being dead in the center. Those are eighth notes, nothing too complicated. Then we are compressing the guitar. If you've been following my mix tutorials, you know I like to compress lead guitars with the reverbs and with the delays to make sure that the reverbs and delays also get louder. Because compression is about reducing peaks so you can boost decay. And the delays and reverbs are the decay. So if you compress after all of those, you get a nice, beautiful block of reverby guitar. So you can hopefully hear as I turn it on that it just sounds like there's a little bit more of everything, which is what you need for a lead to cut through. Then some corrective EQ, filters, low end beneath 150 was whack rumble, and high end above 6.3 was all fizz. And then probably at the end of the mix, I decided that it needed to cut through more. So I boosted around 1.8, which is on leads a very pronounced frequency where all the note definition lives. There's the note definition at around the 400, 600 level. That's really the fundamental note. But the upper harmonics that are going to make it cut through are around here. So listen as I play around with it. Hopefully you agree. As I cut it, you could still hear the lead, but it was hard to make out. And as I boosted it, you really couldn't miss any of the notes. So that's the decision behind that EQ. And also this Reaper trick. So that in this plugin, you can boost your stereo width. So if I boost it here on the stereo width plugin, what it does is it selects the side information, so my delay and reverb in this case, and it's going to boost them. I'm using it to do the opposite, or basically the same. I am ducking the center image. So what I'm telling the plugin to do is I go to the center boost and I give it -3 dB. And what this does is it lets the reverbs and delays stay at the same volume that I was liking, but it's going to cut down on the pick attack of the lead that was in the center. Subtle, but let's see if we can hear it. Again, this is very subtle, but you should be able to hear that the center of the lead goes back a little bit and the delays and reverbs become just a little bit louder. That's all I'm trying to do, is balance the center and the sides. Let's talk about those clean tones in the intro now. This is how they come out of the SS11X by Mercurial Audio again. This is the stock impulse response. All I did was turn down the bass and high end to make them sound a bit softer. You immediately get a good clean tone bass. This is split coil neck pickup. This is a Seymour Duncan Sentient, I believe. Yes, on my 7th string KM7. Then after that, they're going into the harshness killer, that plugin you've seen before. It's just getting rid of annoying whistles in the pick attack and in the harmonics of the guitar. Very subtle stuff. And then it's the same for the harmony. But it's all going to make more sense once we start adding these crazy effects. The first one is an EQ. The most important thing is the filters. So we don't want a lot of high end because these are meant to sound dark and way out there. So 6K. I could go more aggressive, but we're going to run it into crazy reverb, so I don't need to. Low end beneath 100 is just rumble. And these very important cuts, I am cutting the C sharp note, which I believe it's not the boo, but I am cutting this area right here. Like I said, the note definition area with the fundamentals, because the fundamentals on the reverb were becoming very boomy. And on the reverb, we're talking about 8 seconds, modulated, 95% mix. So almost all the way reverbed out. And then no low end beneath 250, helping us get rid of that boominess. And the final EQ is really filtering down. Very bright, very dark. This is the EQ that's making them sound way out there. So cutting down on everything above 4K, which is pretty aggressive, removing a lot of highs. The low end beneath 200 was unnecessary too. And this mid-range here is, again, to try to get rid of some of the note definition and make them sound more like a almost background element. In my mix, they're the foreground element because there's no vocals, but on the original mix, since there is vocals, you can cut this area on the guitars all you want, because that's where the singing note definition is. Just 3 decibels anyways. Then there's this little choir synth running throughout this part. It's very quiet, very low notes. All that I need to do to it is get rid of subs, because I'm running a very low note there. So beneath 50 Hertz, I shouldn't be getting anything. And above 4K is only information. That sounds like almost simulating the throat raspiness. Check this out. It sounds good when it's higher notes, but here I absolutely don't need it. And it's just very quiet behind the cleans. And that is the mix. All you need to know more is that I'm using an explosion sound to accentuate the choruses and breakdowns. Just like that. Does a very good job. Oh, and there's also a secret weapon. So at the final breakdown, there are octaved guitars. I am grabbing this riff, pitching the guitars 12 semitones down for an octave and running it into the amp simulator. That is crazy, my dudes. And all that I needed to do to make them blend was switching to cabinet 2. 4 was all the mid-range. And 2 has a nice scoop with a very pointy high-end spike that helps them kind of be heard and perceived better. It sounds like a total mess, but that's what you have to do. You just get the DIs an octave down, switch cabinets, and blend it. That's nasty as fuck, but I like it. Man, I love this song. Thank you guys for watching this mixing tutorial. If you're new, welcome. Be sure to watch every single other mixing tutorial because your support covers access to all of them. And they all complement each other. There are similar tools and there are very cool wisdom nuggets in each one. That's what I like about doing these mixing tutorials. Even if the tools are similar sometimes, every single one has new insights, and there's a bunch of them that have different drum sounds, of course. So be sure to check them all out. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.